Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tolkien Road, episode 227. John here. Greta,
Hey,
how you
hey,
doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well.
Good.
On this episode, we are checking in with our friend, fellow Tolkien traveler, Caitlin Fascista of Tea with Tolkien. We last checked in with Caitlin back on episode 113, which was released in July of 2017. Caitlin, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? I'm so excited.
I know. We're doing well. We're excited that we're able to do this again. I can't believe it's been 3.5 years.
Yeah,
too
it's
long.
crazy. Last time I was on, I was pregnant with my daughter, and now she's about to turn 3. So I was thinking about that, and I was like, wow.
That's amazing. It's amazing how time flies and just how I'll tell you, we're going to get into a lot of the stuff you've been doing. You have been doing so much in the world of Tea with Tolkien, and it might take us 2 or 3 hours to talk about it all. I just got to be honest.
Oh my goodness.
Buckle your seatbelts, people.
Caitlin's like, I don't have that much time.
Well, my battery might die on my computer. I don't know.
Well, we better jump right in then. I do want to give a shout out to our patrons, and especially this episode's executive producers, one of whom you might know, Caitlin, because it's
Yes.
you, Caitlin of Tea with Tolkien. So thank you,
That's
Caitlin. Thank
me.
you
Yes,
so much.
thank you.
Thank you so much for the support you've given to our podcast.
I'm happy to do it.
Thank you. Also to Lise Yu and Andrew T, our 2 other executive producers. So thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you all.
Well, we are going to, really this episode is going to be kind of tailored towards what Caitlin is doing these days and has been up to over the last 3 years. So we're gonna kind of do all of our quote of the week and our news, and it's all gonna kind of revolve around our conversation with Caitlin. And actually, Caitlin, one of the things that we received from you is I think because we were patrons, because we are patrons of Tea with Tolkien, is we got this cool little postcard right here that had a great quote on it. And I love this quote, and I think to myself, like, yeah, this is really what it seems like Caitlin is all about, right? When it comes to Tea with Tolkien. The quote is, "Keep up your hobbitry and heart and think that all stories feel like that when you are in them. You are inside a very great story." And that's from letter 66, which was written to Christopher. I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, Caitlin, but do you want to like tell us like what that quote means to you? Like what it's like why you chose that one to send out as a special quote?
Yeah, I thought that, well, first of all, I used to have a lot of merchandise that said Hobbit at heart. So I felt like when I saw that quote, I was like, oh my goodness. But that idea of like keeping up your hobbitry at heart is very like, it kind of carries the hobbits through, especially when Sam is feeling super discouraged, like towards the end of The Lord of the Rings. And so I thought it was a very encouraging quote. And I know a lot of people are going through a lot of difficult times, especially last year, and it's continuing on into this year. So I thought that would be just a really encouraging quote, and just kind of like something to reflect on.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I agree. It's beautiful. And I think it's a great reminder. Like I love the part about like we are in a great story, and like everything, even the bad, is part of that story, and it's all working together to make us who we are, and to shape the purpose that God has for each of us. And I think that's just a really good reminder, because sometimes it's easy to just especially everything that's been going on, to lose sight of that, to lose sight of the big picture, and to think about your life as a story. I think that's a cool mindset to have.
Right. And it reminds me of that part. I think I always get the end of the Two Towers and then the beginning of the Return of the King mixed up. So I don't remember which book it's in, but the part where Frodo and Sam are talking about Beren and Luthien and just being like, wow, we're in the same tale still. And this is kind of like the Tolkien version of that, like in his own life. So I thought it was a really cool quote.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
beautiful.
I think it's probably pretty common to get those two things mixed up now because of Peter Jackson, how Jackson structured the movies, right?
Right. I'm I always get those two mixed up.
Because the whole Frodo and Sam arc, they actually, like, their encounter with Shelob is at the end of the Two Towers in the books, and then but Jackson carries it. I mean, it's like in the second half of Return of the King, the film. So
Right.
yeah, and I think it's like, before they get to that point in the books and sequence.
Mm-hmm.
But letter 66 is there's a lot of good stuff in that one. I was kind of reviewing that quote in context today, and then I saw another little bit about, for we are attempting to conquer Sauron with the ring. And I was like, when is that not applicable?
That's so good.
I know it's that's one of those quotes that's just always somehow relevant in our world.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, Caitlin, like I said, we have a lot to talk about. So, so I was going back and I actually listened to our last interview, which was episode 113. And, I think we had known you for a little while at that point. We had corresponded a good bit, and you were just kind of like getting the ball rolling on some of your projects at that point. It was already pretty impressive what you were doing. But it's just become even more so in that time. I mean, you have been a busy hobbit. I'll just say that, right?
It's been a lot. Yeah.
Writer, publisher, podcaster, social media influencer, and I have to say, comedian. Like, you're like, I follow you on Twitter, and that's probably where I hear from you most. And like, I frequently like just laugh out loud at, like when I'm by myself reading something that you've said on, that you've posted on Twitter or something like that. So
that's so great.
But yeah, like, let's see, where do we start? I think what I want to start with is just a refresh on your Tolkien testimony. Like, so we, you told us a little bit about this back on episode 113, but it's obviously been 3.5 years since then. So I'm just wondering, like, what more time and reflection has allowed for you to say, like, what Tolkien means to you and why you've created this whole community, like fan community of Tea with Tolkien around this one guy. And, just tell us more, like, about what he means to you and your history with Tolkien.
Wow. Okay. So, well, the way that I got introduced to Tolkien, I think I talked to you about it on the last episode, was my dad got a copy of The Fellowship of the Ring on DVD for his birthday. And my dad was just like, I don't want this. Like, my dad's more of a Star Wars guy. He's never been into Lord of the Rings, that kind of style. And so I was like, well, I'm going to watch this.
Okay.
So,
question for you there, because I remember hearing that, right? Has he changed at all, right? With your...
Yeah,
Does he come around?
I don't think he's read it. He has some, I don't know, maybe he's seen the movies by now. He's definitely solidly a Star Wars person though.
Still solidly Star Wars.
Yeah, I don't think maybe he's inched closer to Lord of the Rings, but I don't think he'll probably ever read it. That's just not really his style.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's how I got the movies. And then I think I was like 12 or 13 and I was then obsessed with them. And I carried it through high school. Like every assignment we had to do, I found a way to make it into a Lord of the Rings themed assignment. Like where there was an art project, I'm like, oh, I lettered this quote from Lord of the Rings. Or we had to do this literary assignment in my senior year where it was like, a list of every single literary device that you could ever think of. And you had to pull an example for each one of them, like allegory, simile, metaphor, all that stuff. And I used Tolkien for every single one of them.
Yeah.
And I felt, I don't know, as a high school senior, I was very impressed by myself. And then it really just carried through. I took the Silmarillion with me because the copy that I have now, my best friend actually gave it to me as a wedding gift. And after I got married, I brought the book with me on our honeymoon when we went to Italy. And, I'm just reading it as we go. But I didn't really finish it until maybe 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that took a while to read Silmarillion for the first time.
Yeah. Well, so I had a question about this. So you were like, it really, really kind of amazes me that like from 9 or 10 that you were so into Tolkien, as like, because I feel like in our generation, um and like, Harry Potter was really the big thing around that time. And
Mhm.
so like, can you, I guess, can you say anything about like why you think you were more drawn to Tolkien, or were you, drawn to Harry Potter at the same time?
I was not allowed to read Harry Potter, so
Ah,
that
okay.
was not even an option. I remember though the last Harry Potter movie came out when I was like 19 or 20, and I did see the last movie, and I vaguely remember like being in the bookstore when the Harry Potter books were coming out, because there was just like a frenzy of people there, and it was like
Mhm.
I was just thinking like, what, I don't even know what this is about. I just wasn't really ever interested in it. And even if I was, I wouldn't have been allowed to read it anyways. So,
So Tolkien, but you were allowed to read Tolkien,
yes,
obviously.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
So
was I don't really know. I don't really ever talk to my parents about it. They just said this one's okay, this one's not. I was like, okay, sure,
yeah.
whatever.
Well, it was obviously meant to be. Like that's
Obviously,
just how it was
yes.
supposed to happen. So
Right.
yeah.
Right on. Yeah. So so and that was not an uncommon like thing either, like that,
No.
Right.
Harry Potter, it was like Harry Potter, no Harry
Well,
Potter,
it's
right?
funny. I remember when they started to come out, you and I had basically, I think we were married by that point. I think. I mean, maybe not when they first started, but anyway, we had like decided as a couple, like, oh no, we can't read these. Like they're, they're just whatever for whatever reason and went against our faith, or I don't know what we said. But we were like,
Mhm.
oh, we can't read these. Well, then my younger brother's girlfriend started reading them and was telling us about them. And at first we were like, like we were just like, really shocked by the fact. And we were like, no, I told my brother, you might have to break up with this girl. She's reading Harry Potter. I'm not sure that this is appropriate. But as she read them and like told us about them, we were like, oh, maybe it's gonna be okay. So we just kind of started picking them up. And anyway, fast forward a few years, when the last book came out, I was expecting our second child, and he was about to go away on a submarine, and we were literally fighting. We only had one copy of the book, and we were literally fighting over that one
Mhm.
copy. And I was saying, I need
Wow.
to read this because I'm about to have a baby. And he would say, well, I need to read it because I'm about to go underway. And so anyway, we would like hide the book from each other, and it was just kind of funny. So
Wow.
we went from one extreme to the other. But anyway, that was a long rabbit trail. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So, but now,
I I did end up reading them after I got married, and my husband was in medical school, so we were in the Caribbean, and I literally had nothing to do there because I'm just down there with him, and he was studying. I'm not kidding, like 20 hours a
oh, I
day.
believe it. I believe
Um,
it. Yeah.
and so when we came down there, I brought the first like 4 Harry Potters, and I read them so fast. But then I had to wait until we could go back to the US to get the rest of
Oh,
them.
because
So
they weren't available
it
there.
was rough. No, yeah, they didn't have bookstores or anything like that.
Oh
So
man.
so I read them all within the span of a couple months, I think. And just like went straight through them, and I loved them. But I don't think that they can hold up to Tolkien. I don't think
I
they
I
come
I would
anywhere near.
agree. Yeah, no, I would agree. In fact, it's funny when we were we interviewed Solomon. I forget his,
Solomon Schmidt.
yeah, Solomon
Yep.
Schmidt, who's leading this Tolkien, Lewis, and Rowling tour over the
Mhm.
summer, and we had a couple of fans say to us like, yeah, Rowling doesn't belong in this group. They just came right out. They
Aw.
were like, they're like, no, Tolkien and Lewis are like up here. So, which I think is probably pretty common, but I mean, it's true that Rowling was very, very influenced by Tolkien.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but this is a Tolkien podcast, not a Rowling podcast. So I probably need to get us back on track.
You've
So.
been droning on
I
Harry
know,
Potter.
I'm
People
so
already,
sorry.
You're like, did somebody say Harry Potter?
they're
I
like,
know, right?
unsubscribe.
Well, no,
No.
they are definitely in a similar vein.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
Similar vein.
yeah.
I imagine that Rowling would probably say, no, I'm not on the same level as Lewis
Yeah, I
and
think you're right.
Tolkien. It's just like
I
that
know.
different, that different generation.
Mhm.
Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. So I wanted to
Yes,
ask you
yes,
about that
yes.
because it's not, like so many more kids like these days seem to be drawn to Harry Potter first, and that was
Yes.
Mhm.
just something I was kind of interested in about that.
I also think I think it's in part due to the way that you go into any bookstore and the Harry Potter section is massive, you know?
Yes.
There's just Harry Potter merch. Like Harry Potter has been licensed for like literally any object that you want. You can get a Harry Potter whatever. So I do think that plays a big role, but I'm very happy that so far Tolkien hasn't been that like mass produced like it does begin to feel very cheap after a while. I'm like, oh, another Harry Potter section at another bookstore is like, okay, I get it, you know.
I remember when the films when the Lord of the Rings films came out, and I remember I think it must have been the Return of the King year because it won all the accolades, but it was I think it won some accolades at the MTV Movie Awards that year. And I remember they had Gollum like as a presenter, did like CGI Gollum, and I was just like, what is this?
Oh no.
Like, how dare you, and
yeah,
like, oh my gosh, like, and so I'm really hoping we'll get to Latron Prime here in just a few minutes, but I'm really hoping that doesn't happen. That kind of stuff doesn't happen. It's like this is sacred. No.
Right. It's just it feels cheap after a while when there's just so much of it.
I completely agree with that. Yeah. Speaking of merch, Caitlin, I do have a question for you.
Okay.
So I went on to your website the other day looking for a birthday gift for a friend, and I couldn't find a whole lot of merch like on your store. Have you transitioned to because I know you had like the coffee cups and the bags and stuff like that at one point. So I was just wondering if I was maybe looking in the wrong place, or if you've, transitioned into some other endeavors.
No. So right now, all I have is like books.
Okay.
I was getting really uncomfortable with the, like intellectual property, like copyright stuff. I don't ever want to like appear as if I'm like profiting off of Tolkien, like using Tolkien to like just make a quick buck, and then I also don't want to get into any like legal trouble. And so I figured until I need to just like totally sort that all out and figure out, because I would hate to have anything terrible happen.
Sure. Absolutely. No, I totally get it.
So that was really the main thing. And then at the same time, like packing orders all the time is very time consuming and running to the post office and stuff like that. So right now I just have books. I've got
which are lovely, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
And I have the planner too.
Yes.
But I don't have any other merchandise right now. Maybe in like a couple years, I'll bring some of it back. But it was a little bit too much for me to handle.
All right. I get it. We've been talking about doing merch for years and we still haven't made it happen. So.
It's a lot. And especially if you want to make any money off of it, you have to order in bulk. And then I wish I could show you my room right now. I have probably 60 boxes of paper for the planners right now.
Oh, wow.
It's just anything you do, it just becomes massive. So it's very time consuming and it takes up all your space. So just be very careful.
That's good advice. Thank you. We don't have a whole lot of space to spare. That's for sure. But the my tea with Tolkien coffee mug is like still my favorite travel mug. I use it all the time. It keeps it's just my favorite. So
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah. So I love it too much to give it to my friend for her birthday. So what's funny is I got her a Harry Potter mug. So anyway, but I do love the books that like your planner. I know we'll probably get to this. I don't mean to jump out of order.
No, you're good.
But I know the planner is something that you just launched. It's pretty new. And I know it's something that you put a lot of time and thought into. And it's really lovely. Can you tell me like what inspired that, or is a planner something you've been wanting to do for a while, or kind of how did it all come about?
So I've been using a planner since like middle school, when I don't know if your kids, like when you go to school, they give you an agenda now and you have to keep your homework all written down in it. And so when I was in like 7th or 8th grade, they started us on those. Okay. And I've just been using a planner ever since. But I've I'll get like really particular about planners. So I'll buy one at the store and be like, oh, the paper's not right. Or, oh, the font, and like stuff like that, like really, really bothers me. And so one day I was just like super, super like anxious about it. And my husband was like, why don't you just make yourself a planner? And then I was like, oh, duh. So then I made it. And then I was like, well, I did make this, and then I don't know, anytime I make something, I'm like, oh, I'm sure other people want it. So then it kind of one thing led into another. And now I have 60 boxes of paper in my room. And so it's been really cool though. I think a lot of people like it. I like it. I mean, I use it every day. So really, I was like, well, I'm going to make this planner for myself. And if other people like it, then that's great too.
I think that's perfect. That's what,
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's how it should be.
Yeah. It's hard to create something for, like for someone else when it doesn't kind of reside in your heart in the first place,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I make websites for a living, and I can identify with like agonizing over like little details like fonts and and that kind of thing. And I still don't feel like I've never had the visual gift particularly. I'm more of like I can do the coding part of it, so I'm kind of like I'm figuring out all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, let's talk about some of the stuff that I mean, I'm just going through your website, and the biggest thing that I've been hearing about lately from you is your Silmarillion book club. So this is great because as you know, like from the beginning with our podcast, we really tried to kind of highlight the Silmarillion, and you're doing that work too of helping people like dive into the background, because as we know, the Silmarillion, like you really don't understand Tolkien until you've dove into the Silmarillion and you understand that background. And once you do, it illuminates Lord of the Rings, and it like elevates it even higher, as if it wasn't already great enough by itself. You understand all the backstory. So tell us why you decided to do a Silmarillion book club, and tell us how it's going.
Oh, it's going great. I think we're on week 2 or 3 right now. So if anyone listening wants to jump in, there's still time because we're not very far into it. But really the heart of Tea with Tolkien is our book clubs. And so we'll usually do like Lord of the Rings, then The Hobbit, then the Silmarillion. And it kind of just has been in a rotation ever since I started. So this year I wanted to do, last year we did Lord of the Rings as like a full year. So we went really slowly, but not a lot of people were able to keep up. I think, just stuff got in the way. And also last year was pretty unpredictable.
Oh, yeah.
But so for this year, I wanted to do Silmarillion just because it's one of my favorite books. And I know a lot of people feel very intimidated by it. And I'm just really tired of hearing people say like, oh, the Silmarillion is so boring. And I'm like, no, this is like the best book in the world. It's amazing. And so I've got a lot of people in our book club this year, and we'll be reading it until the end of May so we're doing a couple chapters each week, just because I didn't want to spend the next like 5 years on it.
Yeah, right. Which you could easily do for sure.
Yeah, that would be fun, but I just don't think people would continue through, So I'm really focusing on people who've never read it before and just kind of trying to reach out to them like, hey, if you've ever wanted to read this book, like we can help you make it through, because it can be intimidating or discouraging if you get lost or you can't remember who everyone is, especially when you get to Feanor and Finwë and everyone whose name starts with the F. That's very intimidating at first. So the book club is really aimed at people who have always wanted to read Silmarillion but couldn't.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's been really fun so far. I mean, we're only a couple weeks in, but the discussion in our Discord server has been really lively, and it's even hard for me to keep up with. I'm like always checking it, trying to just see what's even going on. There's a lot of people in it, and it kind of has a life of its own.
That's cool.
No, or do you see a lot of kind of light bulbs coming on for people as they as they start to pick up? I mean, you're not too far in, so there's not a lot of like discussion of like names that they might recognize just yet, it would seem like, but even so, like I'm sure there's some light bulb or just people saying like, well, this stuff is really interesting once you kind of spend the time you invest in just wrapping your mind around it.
Yes, and a lot of people have been recommending your books to one another. I'll be scrolling through the
awesome.
Discord and they'll be like, "Oh, this book by John Carswell, you got to check it out." And I'm like, "Yes, this is so
Sweet.
great." So it's fun
That's
seeing
cool.
I don't even really have to do too much in the group. Like the people are just like they're taking care of each other, they're discussing amongst themselves, and everyone's been really respectful, and we haven't had any incidents yet. You know, I'm always worried when there's a big forum like that, but so far everyone's been great, and it's just been really fruitful conversation.
Okay, we were planning on
awesome.
jumping, kind of doing a special like kind of lore discussion. But while we're on the topic of the Silmarillion, I want to put you on the spot again, Caitlin, and
Okay.
just say, do you have a favorite part of the Silmarillion?
Okay, I was thinking about this morning. So I think the funniest part for me is when I forget who is the person who wants the Silmaril from Beren. He's like, "Show me the Silmaril," and he's like, Baron's like, it's in my hand right now.
Oh, right. It's one of Feanor's sons.
Right. Yeah.
Who is it? Is it Curfin or?
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, the name.
Right.
The name yes, I know.
So it's the part where he's like, "Oh, you have the Silmaril? Show me where it is." And he goes, "Even right now, it's in my hand." And then he holds up his hand, and his hand is gone. And like
Right.
that part, it just is so funny to me. And it just like every time I think about it, I just crack up laughing. So I was thinking that's probably my favorite part, just because it's so funny.
Dark humor there.
It's like it's in my hand. Oh, but my hand's not here. Sorry. Like
but my hand's kind of in the belly of that dog or that giant.
Whoops, yes, but it's in my hands. I don't know. Just Tolkien's humor when it pops out like that is just like it's so like startling and so good. It's just hilarious.
It's a little unexpected too, I think,
Yes,
which makes it even funnier and more special.
Well, I feel, and by no means am I an expert on this kind of thing, but I feel like what little I know of like ancient sorts of writing, that's actually like kind of the humor that would have been in that, and just like ancient forms of writing, like ancient like Anglo-Saxon literature or something like that. You know, it's like these little like dark comedic moments where you're just like, it, like we read it on a literal level, and we're just kind of like, wow, that's dark. But for like the people back then whose lives were kind of dark all the time, it's like, oh, hilarious, his hand got bitten off.
Right.
Like, I know.
Yeah.
There is so much in the Silmarillion that to me is just like so funny. I think it's just the way that my brain works.
Right on.
That is really funny to me, because I wouldn't associate Silmarillion and funny like in the same sentence.
I'll just be like reading the Silmarillion, sitting there laughing to myself, and my husband will be like, "What's so funny?" And I'm like, "You wouldn't get it.
You wouldn't get it."
This guy's hand got bitten off. It was hilarious.
You should just be like, it's an inside joke between me and Tolkien.
Me and Tolkien.
Me and Tolkien. Yeah, inside joke.
There you go. Well, it's like that. It's like that part in. I think it's right after the Noldor like leave Valinor, and Manwë and then who's why can't I think of the Valar's name, who is like in charge of the underworld. No.
Mondos?
Mondos, thank you.
Oh,
yes, thank you, Mondos.
Yes. 2 points for Gryffindor.
Gotta go brush up on my Silmarillion. All right, yes.
You join our book club.
So yeah, Manwë and Mondos are kind of like in this dialogue, and Manwë like tries to have this moment where he's like, you know, it will be, they're like pondering all the horrible things that have happened, and he's like, yet evil shall be good to have been, and then Mondos just says something like total downer, and he's just like, yes, but it still sucks or something like that. But it's it's another moment like that, and then you've and then there's that whole thing of between Aule and Yavanna, similar.
Yes.
Right.
I was just gonna say that.
Dwarves.
Yeah. Where Yavanna's like Yavanna's like trying to kind of like always, do the always look on the bright side of life kind of thing, and then Aule says something like, yes, but they will still have need of wood.
Right. Well, she's like, your dwarves better watch yourselves, because I've got the eagles and the ents.
That's
and he's like, well, nevertheless, they'll have need of wood. It's just like this snark is just so funny to me.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
It's good. That's so good.
Yeah.
That is good stuff. All right. Well, cool. So you all definitely need to go check out that Silmarillion, the Silmarillion book club with Tea with Tolkien. And so tell us about some of the other stuff. So you've definitely you've written some books. You talked about the planner. The thing that pops up when I open the menu on your site is the 30 Days in the Shire ebook. Tell us about that.
Okay, so 30 Days in the Shire is meant to be a month-long challenge in just like slowing down and becoming more of a hobbit. So there are 30 different daily challenges. Some of them are like take a walk, drink a cup of tea, have dinner with a friend. And so and then there are also a couple different habits, like you try to avoid fast food and eat more like slow food. And it's just the whole thing is geared towards just slowing down and then adopting the positive habits that hobbits have. So we don't need any of the negative habits like the gossiping.
Or the ale drinking.
Yes, so it's really just
I consider that a positive personally.
Depends on the amount, I think.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, that's the whole thing. I was kind of thinking at first I was going to call it like a half 30, like a whole 30, but like a halfling 30.
Yeah.
But that, that's kind of the idea. But I liked 30 Days in the Shire much more. It makes a lot more sense to people. And so it's just a little ebook that you can download and print it at home. And then in our Discord server, there's a little section for that. So other people who are doing it can kind of talk to each other throughout the little challenge and like just share what they're doing each day. So I think that built a lot of community, and then it's just really fun for people. I really like doing it. We usually do them together. Like I'll do one in September, one in June, stuff like that. Like so we usually do a couple in the year.
And the idea is to do it like 30 days in a row. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah. So it's like for the next 30 days, I'm going to commit to trying to do each one of these challenges. And I mean, if you can't do it all in 1 month, it's not like you failed.
Right.
But it's just like a fun challenge.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic.
Very cool. Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, I mean, anything else that you want to kind of tout for the world? I feel like I try to wrangle it all into my mind, but you have so much stuff, going on. So
it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about your artwork? Do you do that yourself? Because it's really good.
It depends. What do you mean?
Well, I like so the cover for 30 Days in the Shire.
No, I didn't do that one.
Do you have your, you just hire it out?
No, I just designed that on Canva, but I didn't, I didn't like draw it. I just assembled the images.
Well, you still would be a great eye.
Oh, thanks. But then like the planner cover artwork, I drew that. So I've done some and others. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, wow.
And then you have a book too.
Yeah, I do.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the idea behind that book is like, it's kind of like a Spark Notes mixed with a devotional. So for each chapter of The Lord of the Rings, there's a summary on one side. And then on the other side of the page, there's like a little, just like a really short devotional, kind of like applying what might have happened in the chapter to your own life and like trying to draw something out of it. And then there's little space for journaling after that, or taking notes or whatever. So it's kind of like a mixture, but it's supposed to be something to be a companion to you as you read The Lord of the Rings. So I kind of compare it to like Sam, like this book is like your Sam.
Gotcha.
Is kind of what I tried to do with that. So it's really great for people who are trying to read The Lord of the Rings for the first time.
Yes, because that's, not as difficult as Silmarillion, but it's still it's a commitment for sure.
Oh,
yeah.
It ain't an easy read itself at all. So
no,
quite worth it, but not an easy read. Well, wow. So very cool. Well, it's so if y'all aren't getting the message so far, you really need to be following Caitlin. And if you're a Tolkien fan, it's just Caitlin, it's clear that you do the community thing really well. And and I love like just kind of how you try to kind of bring it down to a very personal and practical level on so many of these things. Yet you don't shy away from the Silmarillion either. And so, like that's awesome too. So props Props to you. Many props to you
Definitely.
for
Definitely. Yeah.
everything you do. Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of
Thanks.
community, I want to talk about your Hobbit parties. So I know this
Oh.
is something that you've been doing these for like years, right? I
Mhm,
mean, you started doing them and they happen on Bilbo and Frodo's birthday, correct? Or
Mhm.
like do you try to do it like on
Yes.
the actual day or if like on the weekend closest or
We usually do it on the weekend before.
okay.
So
Gotcha.
I have them planned, you know, like I know this year's will be on September 18th, 17th and
Okay.
18th. So like
Okay.
I have them very planned very far in advance because I want as many people as possible to be able to come.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so I've been doing, last year was our 9th one. So this year is
Oh,
a big
okay.
year because it'll be our 10th Hobbit party.
Yay!
Have to make
That
it
is
extra
so
special.
cool. And do
Yeah.
you I mean it's a big to do. Do you
Mhm.
have it at your home?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Wow. And I can only imagine just the I mean just looking at the pictures and the food. I mean it looks amazing. Can you tell me how this will be your 10th. Have they kind of evolved, over
Yeah,
time?
for sure. Our first one was just I think we were in college and it was just a movie marathon and that was it.
Cool.
So
Cool.
as we've grown up and had kids, you know, when I had just one baby, it was more like a little baby party. Had
Mhm.
her baby friends over and like had a little pumpkin patch for the babies. And then as the kids have gotten older, now we kind of I try to do like a kid zone and then an adult zone in our house. So I'll set up like kids games in one area. And one really fun game that we do is Shelob's Web. So I take white crepe paper and just do it like all around the whole room. Like, so it's like the entire room is a giant spider web. And then I give the kids foam swords and they just like go to town with the swords, just slashing through it. And then
That's cool.
I also give them little glow sticks. So that's the file of Galadriel. And then I'll hide like this past year, I put a Frodo plushie doll in Shelob's Web.
That's
So
awesome.
that was like whoever gets the Frodo wins, you know, kind of thing. So we do like a lot of really fun kids games, but then we also
Yeah.
try to do like more like grown-up stuff. Like we usually have like a fire pit and we'll buy a bunch of corncob pipes for if anyone wants to smoke pipe tobacco with all the guys usually do that. And then we have a lot of food too. So it's just kind of evolved. It used to be only one day, but then I would have a lot of people who couldn't come on Friday, but they could come Saturday, and then other people couldn't come that day. So now I do 2 days of parties.
Wow.
It's really fun though. It's usually like the highlight of the year. So
Yeah,
Right on, man.
that's
hopefully
That
we'll
sounds
be
amazing.
able,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully we'll be able to have one this year, like a real one, because last year was a lot smaller due to COVID.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
It
Yeah.
definitely got in the way of parties.
A lot of parties for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now is
Mhm.
this now all the games and food and stuff like that, is that like a lot of that is something that you've come up with on your own or have you like are there certain like inspirations or have you looked different places for for ideas?
Usually I will look on Pinterest at like Lord of the Rings weddings. Like because
Oh.
when you search Hobbit party, you get a lot more like I feel like kid parties. They're
Mm,
not as like classy. And I want our party to be like real nice. So if
yeah.
you look on Pinterest at like Lord of the Rings weddings or even like Harry Potter weddings, you get a lot of like good ideas from that.
That's
Right
cool.
on.
That's really cool. I'm like just impressed. I love to attend parties, but throwing them stresses me out. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
legit. I can't do it. I get real like I love the preparation, but then the actual like follow through is really
Right.
hard for me. So I always like to plan parties at like other people's houses. So if you want any help planning this year, just let me know.
Yeah. And you guys are more than welcome to drive all the way over.
I
That'd be a
think
fun road trip.
I think we need to plan to do
I
it.
think we need to too.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
had a friend who flew from San Francisco and he came to the
Wow.
party and then he only had one day off. So he flew to our party. He flew to Chicago and then drove to our house, came to the party and then drove back to Chicago and flew back home in like a span of like 14 hours.
Oh
So
my gosh.
That's
it was amazing. Yeah. We
amazing.
had a lot of people come like I've had a lot of people come from far away, and it's very like, it's an honor almost. And I'm like, no pressure. I need to make this party really good because they've come from very far away.
Yeah. So what's the largest group you've had, would you say?
Oh, I don't know. Well, a lot of our friends have a lot of kids. So when you
Kids
get
always up
5
the numbers,
families, you know, there's
Yeah.
like suddenly there's 40 kids here, you
Right,
know.
right.
I did have a party one year where I invited my daughter's entire preschool class. That was probably the biggest one we've had, with the most chaotic. There were probably like
sure.
15 toddlers and their parents. Yeah,
Wow.
that was a little intense, but it's a lot more fun to do the 2-day party, because usually we'll have one on Friday night, and that's more of like all the adults will come, like the single people without kids, and then Saturday usually all of the people with kids come. So
Gotcha.
they can come to whichever one they want, but it's kind of funny how it naturally separates like that. Yep. 2 separate parties.
That's gosh, it's like double the work for you though. I'm like super impressed.
It's really fun though. It's like I live for this stuff. So
oh man, you must start cooking like how far in advance? Like weeks?
I started cooking I have to start baking the lembas pretty far ahead of time, and it freezes great. So
oh, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah. Do ahead is always like key for big parties, the most you can do. But
I was talking to my husband, like I was asking him if maybe we could get a second fridge to go in our basement. I was thinking of the Hobbit party. I was like, I can't fit all this food in our fridge. Like maybe, you know, you can get one of those. Everyone in the Midwest has a fridge in their garage or their basement. I was like, we can get one of those.
Yeah. I mean, you never know when that big snowstorm's going to come, and you're going to need to, you know, just hunker down and
it's true
and live off of what you have in the second fridge.
Live off of Limbus.
Yeah, live off the Limbus. Exactly.
I just have a second fridge entirely full of Limbus. That'd be great.
A second fridge seems like a totally Hobbit thing, right? You know, it's like
sure.
First breakfast, second breakfast, first fridge, second fridge.
Here's what you do. You add it into your 30 Days in the Shire book. That's one of the challenges is acquire a second fridge. And then your husband can't say no. You'll be like, it's a challenge. I have to complete it to complete the 30 days.
Or else I'm being a total hypocrite, right? You know, challenging other people, but don't have it myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think I think we're gonna have to at least pencil that into the calendar.
Oh, I'm down.
That would
I'm
down.
You guys are invited for sure.
Awesome. Maybe it would even get our kids to read the books. They'll see how many cool people are at this party and like how awesome the food is that is inspired by Tolkien. And
first one of you clowns to mention Harry Potter is walking home. So we're gonna tell them.
That's what we'll tell them.
There was one year that I had one of my friends brought her.
Yeah.
She brought her 13-year-old daughter, and I impressed her 13-year-old. And you know, teenagers are like impossible to impress.
Oh, for
and this
sure.
girl was like, "This is so cool," and that was like the best.
That's
like
the
that
ultimate
was
compliment.
Better than any other compliment I've ever gotten. Was I impressed the teenager?
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah, we have a 16-year-old daughter, and I feel like anytime she like compliments something, either that I made or that I'm wearing or whatever, it's like, it just means so much more. It's a big deal.
Usually she just compliments you by stealing your clothes.
She does. True. Yeah. But anyway, but no, this looks it looks awesome. So I'm excited. Yeah. And I love that you do this. I feel like we've never, and it's a little ridiculous. Like we've had this podcast for as long as we've had it, and we've never recognized like Hobbit Day at all. I think we ended up at like a birthday party one day, and they were like, "Oh, it's Hobbit Day." And we were like, "Oh, it is Hobbit Day."
I'm really bad about this. I got a couple of notes when we just didn't even mention Tolkien's birthday on January 3rd, and
I knew it was in January.
You know, I am so not like a I'm not like a birthday person. You know, I'm just like every year when it's my birthday, I'm like, I guess we're going out to dinner or something like that, and you know, I have to like be very intentional about like remembering
my birthday,
your birthday,
and our children's birthday.
Right.
But
today's Greta's birthday.
Oh, is it?
Yes. It is, but
happy birthday.
This is a great way for me to celebrate, to be completely honest. I'm so glad this worked out the way it did. But thank you. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I love that I share a birthday month with Tolkien. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very special.
It is. It's a good month for sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but yeah, I'm always so bad about remembering such. I have friends who aren't even that into Tolkien who are like, "Hey, it's Tolkien's birthday," and I'm like, "Oh, it is," or like, "Oh, it's Bilbo's birthday," and it's like, "Oh yeah, I
It
guess."
Yeah.
sounds like you need a tea with Tolkien planner.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I was like, I think that's what he needs. That would help.
Maybe that's the solution to all of my problems
It
in life,
probably
right?
is.
I mean, it
It's like,
Probably.
wouldn't, it couldn't help. It couldn't hurt.
No, it could not hurt. No. And I have actually been walking around today saying, "It's my birthday, precious." Like the kids, like I'm part of Starbucks rewards. So I get like a free, you get like a free coffee on your
Yeah,
birthday
yeah.
if you're like a Starbucks rewards member. And so I went and got like my ginormous, free coffee from Starbucks.
Yeah.
And the kids have been stealing it. And I've been like, "That's my birthday treat, preciouses. Don't drink my birthday treat." So anyway, I've been golemizing my birthday a little bit, I guess.
Oh
you could
no,
say.
you better watch out.
I better watch out. I know.
well, you're supposed to, as a good hobbit, you're supposed to give gifts on your birthday.
I know, but
Mm.
I know. I actually
I know, but I don't like
I
that.
actually did think I did think about that though. And I was like, because I know you're right, that would be the very hobbit thing to do.
It's true.
But it is hard. It is hard having a birthday so close after Christmas because it's just
Mhm.
like, gift giving is that you were kind of a little tapped out at that point. So maybe next year I'll be more prepared
Right on.
with my gifts for everybody else.
Well, I'm down with the Hobbit party, so
Oh,
Yes.
plan on it.
Definitely. We'll put on. So you said 17th and 18th?
Yep.
Okay. I think we'll be there for both days.
Perfect.
Really. We'll come just ourselves on Friday night. We'll leave the children at the hotel. And then we'll maybe bring them on Saturday. We'll have a date Friday night and then we'll come. We'll let them come play on Saturday. Okay. All right. We have it planned. Good deal.
All right.
Good deal. Looking forward to it.
All right. So, well, we still have some important things to talk about. So,
What's more important than a Tolkien Hobbit party?
well, I'm not saying it's not
asking.
important. I'm just saying we have some other important things to talk about too.
Okay. You didn't use the word more, did you?
What's
Sorry,
that?
nothing.
No.
It's all important. All very important. But the Hobbit party's the most important.
We're the best podcast hosts of all time. Man, we're so well organized and on the same page.
All the time.
So I want to just do a little more lore discussion. You've been a Tolkien fan for so long, and I think I know who number one is for you, but I want to hear your top 3 favorite Tolkien characters. And I think I know who number one is.
I know who number one is too.
Whisper it to Greta real quick.
Wait, can I whisper it? I wonder if it's the same. Can we whisper it at the same time?
Well, no, we're gonna whisper it to each other because we don't want to.
No, but I mean, can we whisper it to each other at the same time? See if we say whisper the same thing.
Let's just write it down.
Okay, we can write it down.
Man, there's so much pressure now.
Well, this could be like the Newlywed Game. You don't have a blank piece of paper, do you? Oh man, let me see if it was going to be what I. Yep, that's what I had in my brain too. All right, we'll see if we're right.
Okay, my number 1 would be Sam.
Oh,
what did you guys say?
Go ahead.
Go on.
Number 2, Varda.
Oh.
And then number 3, Eowyn.
Okay.
We're totally off.
We were way off. We weren't even in the top 3.
What did you guys guess?
Well, we said Faramir.
Yeah, we said Faramir.
Oh, yeah, I do like. I mean, yes, he's very good.
For some reason, I had in my mind that it was fair that you were all about Faramir. But this is a constantly evolving thing
Sam,
too,
though.
as a Tolkien fan.
Right. I mean, Sam
the
is
more you read.
Sam is literally the best in the entire Middle Earth. So
yeah, you can't beat Sam. Everybody needs a Sam.
Sam is just kind of the rock,
Right.
Just come back to time and time again.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about why Varda and then why Eowyn.
Varda, I think I love her title of Star Kindler,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that she is, the way that like you get introduced to her in the Silmarillion, but she really carries through in the Lord of the Rings as Elbereth. And I think that is just really cool. And I love the way that the characters like call to her. And it's very similar to like a Marian devotion.
Yeah.
So that means a lot to me particularly. And just the way that she seems very like caring. And there's something in the Silmarillion about how she kind of always hears when the people are like pleading with her, like asking for her help. So I really love that. And then just the imagery of like the stars, I think is really beautiful.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah, I totally. And the whole Marion imagery, I think, is, just the thing about how she always hears. I mean, that's, I feel like there's so
Right.
many Marion prayers where, you're just like, she's always hears. So,
Right. And
I love
then
that.
the hymn that the elves sing to her is just very
Mhm.
similar to like the Salve Regina. So I really love
Yes.
that connection. I think
Mhm.
it's just really neat, and it's just an illustration of the way that Tolkien was so steeped in his faith, and that it really just
Mhm.
like flowed out from him. And that would
Mhm.
be, I don't think I'm anywhere near that level of like, I don't know, just the way that it was just such an important part of him. Like I would aspire to be like that if I even
Mhm.
felt like I could aspire. I aspire to be like that, Um,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
Eowyn, I love the way that she the way that her heart changes, how it softens towards the end. She really is just like, it's like she's raised in this culture where she thinks the only way she can like achieve what she wants is to be a warrior and to like, die in glory, or and be like, I don't know, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And the way that her heart changes and how says I want to be a healer in the end. I just really like the
Mhm.
way that her story goes. And then of course the whole like I am no man thing.
Mhm.
Even though
Mhm.
that's not what she says in the book, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, I think
Yeah.
that her character is really cool. And everyone always says like, oh, Tolkien didn't put enough women in his stories. And I mean, I'm sure having more women in his stories would be cool, but the women that he did put in his stories are amazing. So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
really like them a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, very strong, a very
Yeah.
strong character.
Mhm.
We did this thing not too long ago. I don't even know how. I guess we just got just talking about it at dinner or something one night, and we were like, so if we had decided to give all of our kids Tolkienian names, what would they have been? If
Mhm.
we had kids before we started all of this. So, but we decided, or I decided that our daughter would have been Eowyn, and
Yeah.
she was totally okay with that because I think
That's
she really
awesome.
likes Eowyn too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I always when I hear that criticism of Tolkien, I just I just make that confused look to myself, and I'm like, I'm like Eowyn, in Lord of the
Galadriel.
Rings, Galadriel, right?
Right.
Eowyn.
Way Galadriel, way more of a spotlight, way more importance than Celeborn. Um, and then you have Luthien, who literally is she almost single-handedly defeats Sauron and
Right.
Morgoth
Mhm.
herself,
You're right.
it's
Right.
just like
Yeah.
you just you're just being picky. Like
Yeah.
You're
you don't
looking
really
for
understand,
things.
right? You don't really
Uh-huh.
understand.
I
Yeah.
do
So
think a lot of the time that criticism comes from like maybe having seen the movies more,
mhm.
just because I mean, and then at the same time, like there are no women in the Fellowship of the Ring, so I do
Yeah.
get it, it does make sense, but I do think that the women that he did write are incredible. So
Yeah, absolutely. And even though the women aren't actually in the fellowship without them would not have been successful.
Mhm.
When you
right,
think about, just all the important roles they played within the story. Just think about Eowyn, right? There's no way. Like if she hadn't healed, um, am I getting my movie mixed up with my book? But she heals Frodo, right?
What Eowyn?
Not
are you
Eowyn,
thinking of
Arwen.
Arwen?
Sorry, I'm thinking of Arwen. That is my complaint, though, is his names are they sound too much alike.
But they mean something.
I know. It's true. It's true. But it's, Arwen, Eowyn. I was talking about Arwen. That's who I was trying to talk about. But anyway, we were just talking about Eowyn. That's my excuse.
That's
So
okay.
anyway, yes. Even though they aren't exactly in the fellowship, they still
Mhm.
play very, very important roles. And
Right.
and Eowyn too. I mean, the way she gets everybody to Helm's Deep, and I mean, yeah.
There
Anyway,
are many outstanding outstanding
qualities.
female characters.
Mhm.
Right. Yes.
I'm just it sometimes a lot of times people, and this I think this applies to just so many things these days, people are just critical for the sake of being critical, and
Possibly, yeah.
for the sake of scoring points, and in some way that's important to them. Anyway, that's John's take on it all. All right, moving on.
We'll get off our soapbox now.
The hate mail shall now flow, and the 1-star reviews on iTunes. All right. Let's see, a favorite passage or two or three.
Okay, I printed it out so I can read it for you.
Awesome.
So this is from The Return of the King. As I said earlier, I get the two mixed up, but this is from when Sam is in the Tower of Cirith Ungol, and he's like looking for Frodo everywhere, you know, and he goes up as high as he can possibly go, and he just hits a dead end, and he's just totally in like the most desperate place that you could ever be. And then he sings this little song that I'm not going to sing. He says, in western lands beneath the sun, the flowers may rise in spring, the trees may bud, the waters run, the merry finches sing. Or there may be 'tis cloudless night, and swaying beaches bare, the elfin stars as jewels white amid their branching hair. Though here at journey's end I lie, in darkness buried deep, beyond all towers strong and high, beyond all mountains steep. Above all shadows rides the sun, and stars forever dwell. I will not say the day is done, nor bid the stars farewell. So like that song or poem or whatever you call it has like meant a lot to me. So I find it very encouraging. Similarly to that Tolkien quote that I put on the postcard that you have, it's just kind of the idea of just not giving up and remembering that you might be in a really rough spot at that moment, but remembering that outside of where you are, there's still beauty and light, and you're not going to be in that spot forever. Kind of how Sam's like, I won't say the day is done, even though he's in this awful spot.
All right. Yeah. And again, it's just keeping that wider perspective, you know, like, and that the quote that we mentioned earlier on the postcard about those kind of desperate circumstances are part of the great story that we're in.
Right.
And it also reminds me too of that part where I think they're on their way. I can't remember what book it is, but they're on their way to Mount Doom, and Frodo's just kind of over it. You know, he's just like ready to give up, and I'm done, and we're never going to make it. We're not going home, all the things. And Sam has that beautiful part where he talks about, you know, maybe one day they're going to read about Frodo and Sam, you know, think of all the great stories that we grew up on. And maybe one day they're going to say, oh, Mom, can you tell us the tale about Frodo and Sam? And, you know, I think that's, you know, again, like we are all in a story, and whether or not people will actually read about us one day, well, that remains to be seen. But, you know, but regardless, we are all in a story.
Yeah.
And the sun will rise tomorrow. So,
yeah, I mean, those both the passage from Sam is, you know, tremendously, the tremendous like power of consolation in that, you know, like of consoling us in our darker moments. And I mean, that's just one of the most wonderful things about Tolkien's works.
Yeah,
in the first place, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And that just that applicability to, you know, so many times in our lives.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Latron Prime, Caitlin, as we call it over here. So I feel like I'm sure you've posted some about it, like on Twitter or something like that, but like, or given, you know, shared some of your own thoughts, but I haven't seen many of them myself.
I haven't had a lot of thoughts about it, to be honest. I mean, I did think I thought about it a little bit today because I was preparing to come on the podcast.
Yeah. And
I didn't want to have nothing to say.
Well, I feel like you are kind of like you enjoy like you're a TV show person, because we are, right? We, you know, we're really like, we watch a lot of like, you know, the longer form TV shows nowadays. And so this was like, we were super psyched to hear the news about this, and even though it's been so slow in coming out, but yeah,
I've been getting very nervous. I feel like it's hard to feel optimistic about it, especially when I've seen some of the other shows that Amazon has put out. I feel like they're okay, but then there's just a lot of sometimes something will happen, I'll just feel like that's weird, like, you know. And then I was reading the synopsis today, and the way that they said the greatest villain that ever flowed from Tolkien's pen, and I was like, oh, it's about Morgoth. And then they're like, in the Second Age. I was like, what? So that already, I'm like, are you serious? Do you really think that Sauron is the greatest villain? I think that's just embarrassing. And it bothers me because I feel like they're, at least the synopsis, it feels like it was written for fans of the Lord of the Rings movies
Right.
or the Hobbit movies, and that's it.
Mhm.
So like they're targeting a really specific audience, and I don't feel like I'm included in that audience, which is a bummer, because I don't know why you would make a show about the Silmarillion if you're gonna go calling Sauron the greatest villain. Like that's just silly. So that bugged me. And then there was another part in the synopsis where they said it was something like characters new and familiar, and I was like, new and familiar, are you guys making up characters, or do they mean I'm hoping that they mean new to you because you haven't read the Silmarillion, kind of.
Mm.
But to me, that was a red flag because it reminded me of the Hobbit and that elf Toriel, is that her name?
Oh, right. The Hobbit
Stuff
movies.
like that.
Mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Mhm.
the Hobbit movies. So
Mhm.
those were kind of like red flags for me when I was reading the synopsis. But at the same time, like the amount of money that they're putting into it does make me think, well, like maybe this will be good. But I'm just nervous. I guess that's how I'd sum it up. Just
That's
anxious
fair.
about it.
Yeah, I think we share that emotion, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely. I think I think just the longer it drags out where they don't really give us much info about it, I think for all of us kind of hardcore fans, we're a little bit like, we just get more nervous and nervous, and you see how much money's in it, and it's like, okay, that could either be a really good thing, or if they have good quality control, or it could be a really bad thing in the sense of like they are just gonna, there's so much money in this that they've got to go like kind of so mainstream Hollywood with it because it can't fail, right?
That's after reading the synopsis, it felt like they were trying for that. Like kind of how the new Star Wars is, the new one, whatever it was called, The Force Awakens. It was like, hey, let's just remake Star Wars exactly the same because we want the audience. And they got the audience. And so I kind of feel like that might be what they're trying to do. Like, let's make a prequel to The Lord of the Rings with Sauron, and so it does make me nervous, but in general, I just try not to think about it.
We'll just see.
Probably a good strategy. Yeah.
We'll just see where it all lands. Yeah. So just to like for our correspondence this week, I posted a poll on Twitter that was the greatest, just saying the greatest villain that ever flowed from Tolkien's pen, and I listed just to see how people would respond, and I listed Melkor and Morgoth, Melkor/Morgoth, Sauron, Saruman, and other. And the greatest villain that ever flowed from Tolkien's pen, almost 50% said Melkor or Morgoth.
Right. It's just silly to say that.
25 said Sauron. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So it bothers me, especially because Tolkien was so careful with how he wrote. Like, the man is a philologist.
Right.
Like, language and words were important to him. And so either they're just carelessly throwing these kinds of words out, or they genuinely think that the Tolkien fans aren't gonna like read into it. And either of those bother me, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
Did you expect us not to read into it? I don't know. Like, have you ever met a Tolkien fan? Is kind of, those are just my initial, I just felt a little bit bothered by it. But at the same time, I try not to be too like judgmental, because I'm sure it'll be great. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, if you think if you thought Star Wars fans are picky for the last for the last couple of years, once if you mess up something with Tolkien, man, it's gonna get ugly. Yeah.
Right. I know. So hopefully I don't know. I do hope that they have like, a healthy fear of Tolkien fans. Because I don't know. I just hope they don't ruin this, because I'm not going to be happy if they do.
No.
I'm trying to be optimistic about it. I don't know what show you were referring to, if what shows you're referring to with Amazon. I know we've watched a few that have been original Amazon productions. I think we watched Man in the High Castle, which I was very excited about, and but didn't I felt like it was okay, but it didn't like it had so much more potential. And I think they actually tried to I think they actually kind of like retooled their in-house like executives because they weren't, probably Jeff Bezos wasn't happy with,
Wow.
all of the way things were going with his original productions. So, maybe hopefully that's a good sign, and we'll end up getting
Right.
something really good. But yeah, I don't know. It's just not really going to know how I feel about it until it happens, until
Yeah.
it lands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's true. Yeah, I don't really think there's too much of a point in speculating it. I mean, it is fun, but
Mhm.
I feel like in a couple years we'll just know, and then that'll be that.
we'll know.
We'll just
hopefully,
know.
hopefully we'll be happy. But if we're not, we'll always have the books. So
That's true. Yeah, no one can mess those up.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. Yep.
so some of the other responses to this poll is some people wrote, says Morgoth may be the biggest villain of the universe, but the most well written is surely Sauron, and it's got to be who they're talking about here. I don't know if I was sure if
What
it's
does
the most
well-written
well written. Yeah,
mean?
that's
Yeah, I
kind
don't
of,
know
it's
what that-
Twitter, so it's short
Yeah, I'm
responses.
sure that they have really good, I'm sure that
Somebody said Lobelia Sackville Baggins. Okay,
I saw that. I thought that was hilarious.
that's pretty funny. Feanor.
Hmm.
I've seen Ungoliant, Shelob. Yeah, there's some other good ones. Smaug. Yeah, you can only give like three or four options on the
Right.
Twitter poll, so I had to leave one as other. So
Right.
Yeah. That's clever though.
yeah,
That's funny. Some of the responses.
Tolkien does have a lot of very good villains, that's for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you could throw in there like Denethor, just the Black
Mhm.
Riders themselves.
Yeah.
There's a lot of. I mean, just Glaurung, from the Silmarillion, the dragon,
Mhm.
good one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. There's a lot of
lots
them.
of good ones.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
I mean, we'll see who the biggest of all is, though.
Right.
Yeah. Who in Amazon's opinion is the biggest
Oh, yeah,
of
there-
all
I know,
of
I
these? A
can't-
possibility.
Can't wait to see.
It's
Oh,
probably
my goodness.
it's probably going to be Jar Jar Binks. Let's just
Sith Lord Jar Jar Binks.
Sith
Oh,
Lord
my
Jar Jar Binks.
goodness.
Yeah. All right, Caitlin, this has been a lot of fun.
It has been,
any
yeah.
like final parting thoughts you want to share with us or the audience?
Ooh, well, thanks for having me. I just,
Absolutely.
if anyone wants to read the Silmarillion with us, they can join our book club. They can sign up at teawithtolkien.com/book-club. And you have to sign up with your email address, and then you'll be sent the link to our Discord server. That's just kind of how I keep it like moderated.
Mhm.
And that's really where teawithtolkien.com is really where I have everything. So if they're all the planners and books and everything I've got going on, that's kind of the hub.
Cool. And can
Yeah.
people can they subscribe to your podcast that way too? Or is that
Yeah, the podcast episodes are on the website, or you can listen in like Apple Podcasts or Google Play.
okay?
All the normal podcasts.
All the
Right.
podcatchers.
Yes, and it's just called Tea with Tolkien. Right now we're doing book club episodes. So if you
Okay.
if you don't want Silmarillion book club episodes, then I don't have anything for you. But
Well, you have a backlog. You have
That's
a lot
true.
of stuff that you did before.
that's
So-
true. Yes, they can catch up.
Yeah. And they're shorter than ours. So if people want something, just a little bite and don't want to
Get
listen
tired
to
of
all of
hearing
our
us drone on.
exactly. Get tired of our rabbit trails and goofiness. Like, yeah.
I could
they're
just
great. I've
never
listened to
talk
some.
for an hour. Like I just couldn't. I'll be
Well, by
talking and-
yourself, it's hard. Yeah.
right. And I feel like some people aren't able to listen to an hour-long podcast. So that's why I like to have mine very short. So it's like
Yeah.
you just get it, then you're done. You don't have to listen
Yeah.
all day.
John and Greta are like blah 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 blah. Caitlin's all like do.
That's exactly right.
Exactly.
That's a perfect description.
That's right.
Yeah. Perfect. Yes.
All right. Well, thanks, Caitlin. It's been a lot of
Yes,
fun.
it
Yeah,
has
thank you guys so
been.
much.
Thank you for being here and giving us your time. It's been
Thanks
it's
for
been
having
great.
me.
Absolutely. We need to do it more often.
For
'Cause
sure.
it's been, 3.5 years. That's a little
Anytime. I'm always
Cool.
here.
cool.
Well, thanks to our patrons also, and to everybody who listens. We want to especially thank the following patrons: Caitlin of Tea with Tolkien, Lise U, Andrew T, Shannon S, Brian O, Emilio P, Zeke F, James A, James L, Chris L, Chuck F, Azia V, Ish of the Hammer, Teresa C, David of Pints with Jack, Jonathan D, Eric S, Joey S, Eric B, Matt L, Johanna T, Ms. Anonymous, Sam N, and Mike M, and those celebrating their anniversaries this month: Tyler W, Shannon S, Brian O, Margaret L, Emilio P, Zeke F, and Katie W. And thanks again to Caitlin for sitting through that list of people.
Yes.
You guys have a lot of patrons. That's awesome.
All right. Well, we're thankful for everybody, and all the
really
support.
is.
So
yeah,
That's great.
It's encouraging.
Well, thanks everybody for listening, and we will talk at you next time.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.